Hello, today we're going to make fluffy buttermilk biscuits. So what you will need is 1 pound of white lily unbleached self-rising flour. This is the best flour to use for these biscuits as it is milled with 100% soft winter wheat. You will also need 1.5 cups of buttermilk. As you see here, I'm using a whole cultured buttermilk. You will also need 1/4 pound or 4 ounces of unsalted butter. It's important to note that the buttermilk and butter should be very cold. We will also be adding kosher salt and black pepper to our self-rising flour. Add 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt, and some freshly ground black pepper. Just stir it around a little bit just to mix the salt and pepper into the self-rising flour. Now we will incorporate the butter, which you see I have cubed in large pieces, into our flour mixture. You want to use your thumb and forefinger along with flour and press away from you. So as I'm picking up the butter and flour, I am pressing away with my thumb and forefinger. This will take about 30 to 45 seconds to fully incorporate your butter into your flour mixture. You do still want some fairly nice sized pieces of butter in your flour mixture. Don't overwork it. As you can see, there are still some lovely pieces of butter in various sizes in the flour mixture. And now you are ready to add your buttermilk. Make a well in the center and add your buttermilk all at once. You can either use a spatula, a wooden spoon, or as in this case you can see I'm going to use my hand, which I find is best. You want to use a very gentle motion and incorporate your buttermilk into your flour very gently. You don't want to overwork this. And you just rotate your bowl and stir in until all the buttermilk and flour is incorporated. Add just regular all-purpose flour to your work surface and take a pastry scraper and scrape the dough onto your work surface. Lightly dust the top of the dough with additional all-purpose flour. This dough is sticky, so a little bit of a light dusting of flour helps to bring the dough together just enough so that you can work with it. As you can see, it comes together very quickly. And I'm using a very light touch with the dough. The dough is very soft. With your rolling pin, you're going to roll your dough out anywhere from 1/2 to 3/4 inch thick. Just lightly dust with flour so that your rolling pin does not stick to your dough. So I have about 3/4 of an inch, and I am ready to cut out my biscuits. Have a biscuit cutter ready along with a bowl of all-purpose flour. My cutter is about 3 inches. You can use a cutter anywhere from 2 to 3 inches. Take your sheet pan and brush it with some unsalted melted butter. This will give a very nice crust to the bottom of your biscuits. I'm going to brush the top of the biscuits with a little egg wash. So just take 1 egg and whisk it well and have it ready. Also, Malden Sea Salt. I'm going to sprinkle a little Malden Sea Salt on the top of every biscuit. So just take your cutter, dip it in your flour, and then cut out your biscuits. Your first one will always be a little bit tricky to get out of the biscuit cutter. Then after that, you'll be good. You want to line your biscuits very close together, almost touching, but not quite. And dip your biscuit cutter each time into the flour so that the biscuits come out easily. And as you can see, there's very little space in between each biscuit. You want to take the remaining dough and very gently bring it all together using your pastry scraper. Be very gentle so that you don't overactivate the gluten in the flour. And just use your hands at this point to just pat out the dough so that you can get 2 more biscuits out. You should end up with anywhere from 10 to 12 biscuits depending on how thick you make them. And once again, do the same thing. Be very gentle and cut out 1 more biscuit. You want to take a dry pastry brush and just brush off any excess flour. And now we're ready to glaze the top with our egg wash. Be very careful, just brush the top. Do not allow the egg wash to run down the sides. You could also replace the egg wash with just additional melted butter if you prefer. It's important to note that I will take this tray of biscuits and pop them in the freezer for about 10 to 15 minutes before I go ahead and bake them at 425 degrees. Now I'm going to top them with a little bit of Malden Sea Salt. You could also use fleur de sel here as well. After baking my biscuits at 425 degrees for 15 to 18 minutes, depending on the size of your biscuits, they are ready to be enjoyed. See the bottoms? They're a beautiful color and the tops have a nice golden color on top. That's from the egg wash. If you choose to use butter, they won't get quite that dark on top. You see the natural split there? That's where you just want to open your biscuits. You don't really want to use a knife to cut your biscuits open. They should just pop open on their own. And they're nice and steaming hot and ready to be enjoyed.